Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Diablo 3. My name is Wilfred, and in this video I'd like to share with you my experience playing this brand new Crusader set called the Aegis of Valor. It is a very fun build. I've enjoyed it a lot in this season 19. Still work in progress. I still would like to replace some of the gears, but I think more or less I've got the gear and set settled. And in this video, I'd like to just logically mention about how this build is going to work, so that in a way that you can internalize it and make it your own as well. Now, first thing first, of course, look at the set look at the set bonuses. Very much focused on two powers. One is the Heaven's Fury, another one is the Feast of Heaven. Heaven's Fury is more like the power that you use to dispatch enemies quick and fast, because it hits really hard. But you require Feast of Heaven to do certain things to buff your Heaven's Fury and to increase your survivability. So let's start with Feast of Heaven first. So now Feast of Heaven empowers Heaven Fury when you hit the enemy up to 3 stats, which is 300%. So it's pretty good to start with. It does reduce your damage receive as well, up to 50% on a 50 stats for 10 seconds. So it's pretty good as well, because you can build it up pretty fast. And the last but not the least, it return rough, because this build is very rough, very rough demanding. So you need to be able to regenerate the rough without using one of the primary power. So to regenerate rough, you could use the Feast of Heaven, and it return 5 rough for the enemy hit. That doesn't seem a lot, because it costs quite a fair bit to cast. But the trick of it is that if you use a Feature rune, it does connect all the Feast of Heaven together, and whichever enemy that caught in between or the Feast of Heaven that you cast will keep returning wrath to you. So just to demonstrate quickly, now of course you can't see it right now because I don't have enemies here, but it does connect in this way. So all this feature thing that it connect, any enemies within this area, while it keep hitting it, it return you wrath. So you could maintain a pretty high amount of wrath on that manner. So that is number one thing that you should pay attention to. And also also the set buff both the Feast of Heaven and Heaven's Fury by 200,000%. So suffice to say, in majority of time when you look at something like that, in Diablo 3, you will use these two power into your hotbar. Now, Heaven's Fury hits really hard. That is provided that you remove the cooldown requirement for Heaven's Fury, and that's why one of the runes that I use is the Fires of Heaven, whereby you remove the cooldown of the Heaven's Fury, which is 20-second cooldown, and then you deal extra damage at holy, and that really costs a lot of mana or wrath to do that. So something like that. So you can see that a big chunk of it is disappear when you cast the Heaven's Fury. So that is the first thing you should be aware, that because you want to spam this power as fast as possible, you maintain the wrath generation through the Feast of Heaven and other means as well, and you keep spamming it to prop certain cooldown reduction. I'll talk through that a little bit. But now look at the big power here. The Heaven's Fury, it does buff by a couple of things. First of all is the Shield of Fury, that you give you 600% of the damage increase to the Heaven's Fury by using the 20 stacks to it. So that's number one that you use. The Bracer, which is the Bracer of Fury, also any enemy that's been stunned will increase up to 400% of the damage dealt as the Heaven's Fury. And the good thing about this gear is that you could roll another holy skill, deal 20% damage to the enemy, so give you extra buff to it. And suffice to say, you could also use you will have to use the shield glare to stun enemy to prop this guy. So this one will give you additional 20% damage. So it's kind of nice, 20% from here, 20% from the gear itself, and another 400% from the overall FX itself. So that is important to your build. You have Fate of the Fel as well, which I cube it. Fate of the Fel is one of the weapon that your Heaven's Fury gain 2 additional rays and increase damage by 500%. Again, they buff the Heaven's Fury. It gives you an extra rate to hit more target, and more so if you get really close to a boss or some elite target, all 3 rate could potentially hit the same target. So that will multiply by another 3 times. So that's important to note there. Last but not the least, the conversion of element will rotate the damage up to 200% towards the holy damage that you have. Then again, it's kind of like add everything together. It becomes a really insane amount of Heaven's Fury that you dealt once you get all the plots lined up nicely. All right, so that is number one thing that you should pay attention to. Now, the second thing that, doing damage is one thing, but the most important thing is to survive the Greater Rift. As you go higher rank, it gets harder and harder to survive. Damage dealt upon you is insane. So as we design a build, we always look into the various kind of like strategy in terms of getting your damage reduction increased. So now the set itself gives you 50% of the damage reduction when you hit with the Feast of Fury, up to 50 stats. So with the feature rune, you can hit it quite fast. Within a couple of seconds, you'll be up to 50% damage reduction. Never a problem with me in a Greater Rift, even at high Rift. So that's really good news. The second one is the Iron Skin kind of build that you have. You use this Iron Skin, you pop it when it's required. It absorbs 50% incoming damage. So that is a second layer of the 50%. So that is important. You need to build a couple of layers to survive. Then the other one that's not too obvious is the Loss of Valor. Now, Loss of Valor increase the attack speed and so on and so forth, but it also reduce the cost reduction by 50%. Now, how does cost reduction work with damage reduction? Well, because we are using the Captain Crimson set as well, and the Captain Crimson set will help you to reduce damage once you have the cost reduction as well. So my gear cost reduction without popping the Valor itself, Law of Valor, is around, I believe it's around the 28%. So 28% is what I have at base without doing anything, thanks to my Captain Crimson. And with the Law of Valor, add another 50% to it. So it's quite a fair bit of damage reduction there, more than 70%, close to 80% damage reduction just to pop the Valor. So Valor is important. It's not that intuitive, but it is very important to remember that. Now the last one, of course, the bread and butter of any Crusader build that I can think of is the a correct champion, because that would tremendously increase the damage output, wrath generation, as well as the increased armor mitigate damage, of course. And as the melee character, you need armor. 150% armor is a big deal. You are possibly kind of invincible during this stage unless you do something stupid like walk right into the beam of the arcane sentry, or some poison on the ground that just sit on it without moving. Provided that you can't observe, have a general awareness of what's around you, you can survive pretty well with this power on your hotbar. You have to maintain this 100% cooldown. I'll talk a little bit about how you do that. But the also good thing about this is that when you get defeated during the effect of Arrogant Champion, you're brought back to life again immediately. So you basically just, you have another cheat death kind of mechanism there. So that's really good. Now, but how to make it work is that you must have a really good damage cooldown reduction. The gear that you have, you tend to roll towards that cooldown reduction on any gears that you have. Like, that's why we use the pick sticker here. Not that because it has any fantastic squeaking sound that help you motivate you to kill better, but just that it has a very good affixes lined up, like the attack speed as well as the cooldown reduction. That is really important for this build. The cooldown reduction center around the Obsidian Ring of Zodiac. So whenever you hit an enemy, you reduce the cooldown of one of your skill by 1 second. Now this is a really cool mechanic. A lot of people just blindly click any cooldown as it come off cooldown. And nothing wrong with that. It's just a different kind of gameplay. But because it does reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your skills, you really want to prioritize which are the skills that you want to prop the cooldown reduction. Because if all your skill is on cooldown, then of course it will just randomly pick one to reduce cooldown. But if, say, it's only one of your power is on cooldown, then all the procs will then go into that power to reduce the cooldown. Your first priority is the Arrogant Champion. You must be able to keep whacking your enemy through the Heaven's Fury, because that has a really fast kind of like counting speed, you know, provided that you get the wrath generation support from your Feast of Heaven. You really want to proc this guy, keep the cooldown of this guy you know, as much as possible. Now, you have all this gear like Captain Crimson to reduce the cooldown reduction and so on and so forth. That's well and good, but you need more, you need extra. So, so your first priority when you use this ring is to proc this one. But, you know, as you get more experience, as your gear getting better, you're realizing that, well, you know, I could actually do a little bit more, because, you know, I'm able to pop this guy even before the cooldown, you know, kind of like, you know, requirement. So then you could start to reprioritize. Okay, so that is important. The second thing that's kind of important is the Law of Valor, because the Law of Valor is the one that gives you 50% damage reduction. So whenever you pop it, you can survive pretty well. But that becomes situational. You don't pop it anyhow. Required. You pop it when there is there is a really high incoming damage coming towards you. Then you pop it. Now the third thing that you use that is important is Iron Skin. Now that has to work together with one of the power there, which is the Stone Gauntlet. Now Stone Gauntlet will increase your armor by 50% up to 5 times, which is 250%. But it comes with a penalty. The penalty is your movement speed is 50% reduced, and attack speed by 20% reduced, up to 5 times. So a lot of people ask me, like, you know, my friend asked me, oh, my character got stuck, it's lag. Well, it's not lag, it's because of this item they're using. Up to 5 times your movement is reduced by, like, you know, 75%. It's as good as you're lagging. Your attack speed reduced by like 100%. You are hitting very slow and moving very slowly, and that is working on its intent, because the 200% increase of your armor comes with a cost. To get rid of it, there are 2 ways. One is the champion. So you want to keep that on. If you manage to keep that on 100% uptime, then you don't need to worry about the penalty here. However, if the mob density is not high enough, sometimes in some map you make a U-turn and dead end and so on and so forth, you may fall off. You may not be able to keep it 100% uptime for the champion. Even with the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, then you need to pop the Iron Skin for you to get by. So I would actually pop the Iron Skin only if I'm under 2 scenarios. Number 1, I'm very sure that I can keep my champion uptime 100% because of all the mobs that surround me. Number 2, I know that my champion will fall off and I will not have anything to protect me during that period of time, and I got stuck because, you know, of all this penalty from the Stone Gauntlet. That's why I popped the Iron Skin to give me the extra seconds of, like, you know, window for me to pop my champion. So that is the 2 things here, and that's why I put the Law as a more something that I could spam a little bit more than the Iron Skin itself. Now, last but not the least is the Shield Glare. Shield Glare doesn't really do much unless you are, well, it does a lot. It helps you to do, you know, that kind of like stun the enemy. So you kind of a bit of crowd control. It buffs your Heaven's Fury by 400%. So that's, you know, pretty good. But you don't want to spam it too much, because as much as spam it, then everything else become, you know, you're harder to keep the uptime or the rest of things. So I will only use it on 2 scenarios. Number 1 is when I'm facing with an elite, whereby I need to dispatch them really quick because they do a lot of damage affixes to me. The second one is that if I touch a shrine that reduce the cooldown, that remove the cooldown as well as you know, cost of the spell, then it's kind of nice, because, you know, I have a Flavor of Time kind of amulet that help me extend the all this shrine effect by double. So I would actually use a lot of you know, Shield Glare because, you know, then I can spam it quite a lot because I don't have any cooldown on this one. Just keep spamming. So that is really, really good. So it really depends situational. All right. So I hope and of course the last thing is the Ring of the Royal Grandeur, because I'm not equipping a full set like 6 items for the Valor nor the Captain Crimson, which is 3 items. So but with the Royal Ring of the Royal Grandeur, then you can equip both onto yourself. So I believe I've already covered most of the stuff, if not all. Any question that you have, you can drop below the comment box. I will answer you in case I've missed something or whatnot. I'll also put it on the comment in the description of the video for you guys. So it's a very fun build. It's very good. It takes a while getting used to the whole gameplay, maintaining the Wrath and so on. This build and only work at end game. So if you try to level up and so on and so forth, don't try to do this one immediately, because it will be really, really painful. You will not be able to generate enough Wrath. Pick something like one of the primary power, secondary power, sorry, that you could just keep spamming without the primary power, that you can just keep spamming like the Justice to regenerate your Wrath. So you know, just do it moderately as you increase your gear, get more comfortable, as you get more cooldown reduction. Do something that you know, evolve around that, internalize this build and make it your own. So I hope this video is useful. Of course, you have to use the Templar as well, and just want to make sure that you understand this as well. Templar, use the you cannot die, so it's good. Use something like the Thunder Fury to have the lightning damage to prop with the Wayward. I think lightning damage has a chance to stun, so that's important. Then you have Oculus to give you a little kind of like yellow thing that you step onto it, then you deal more damage, so that's good. The Axe of Johan will suck the enemy together. Sometimes it's good, you know, it kind of helps to stun enemy as well. Last but not the least, you know, you can further block the enemy once you further freeze the enemy once you block. So it's quite a lot of utility on your follower, so please don't ignore him. I don't invite him because he tend to be too noisy during my making of the video, saying that I should do something more value adding. But hey, I'm training Nephilim here, so I think it is just as important as killing enemy. Alright, so I'll see you next time. Goodbye.